Leading Britain's Conversation with Matthew Wright.
Let's talk about the economy. I have to say I had a sneaky look last night just to see how much the UK owes. I think it's £2.7 trillion at the moment, which when you think of figures like that, makes the numbers I'm about to talk about look like small beans, but I'm sure they're not. So government borrowing, which is essentially the difference between spending and income from taxes, went up to £10.7 billion last month in February, way over a predicted figure of £6.5 billion for the month. What does this mean for the economy? Rachel Reeves is Director of Travel. What does it mean for growth? Well, I'm joined by Dr. Roger Gewolb, a political and economics commentator and a former advisor to the Bank of England and the UK Treasury. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Matthew.
Actually, let's start with my slightly facetious observation. Against 2.7 trillion, this looks like small beer.
Sure, it does. But I mean, it's still an awful lot of money, and it's a terrible overshoot.
Why? Why have we overshot?
Because this new government has got some very lofty plans and noble goals, but they aren't practical. They're inexperienced, and they don't really grasp what they're doing. None of them has ever really run a business, and they are running out of track, if you will, running out of runway. And the figures are going to catch up with them because they are hurting growth rather than helping it, really damaging British businesses. And as people curtail their business investment and spending, leave the country, cancel huge projects like a number of big name firms have done, the impact of that is going to stop money coming into the coffers, and the debt is going to build up.
I was going to say, if you could be more specific on Labour policies, but just before we get to that, I mean, some of the stuff you were detailing there began not long after we left the EU, that the business is moving out, etc., etc. So it's not all on Rachel Reeves, but where is she going wrong specifically?
Jobs tax, as they call it. No, of course, it's not all on her, and some of it did start before Labour's recent victory. In fact, we haven't had growth, real growth, since about 1990, and they estimate that if we had normal growth, Matthew, we would, instead of deficits, we would have something like 2 trillion in the bank that we don't have. It's the jobs tax. They said we're not going to touch income tax, VAT, or national insurance. And then they went, ha, 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 we didn't say employers' national insurance. So they've upped that, and it's absolutely killed business. People have closed their businesses, have stopped hiring. The effects have been devastating. So, yeah, Rachel is to blame for that one.
But you rightly say that the problems with growth began in the 1990s. I mean, we have been flatlining for well over 20 years, which again predates Labour. What is wrong? I mean, listen, this is the really big question. What is wrong with this country, Roger? Why can't we find growth?
I don't know. You have to ask the finance ministers of some African countries who are ahead of us.
Yes. Now, I'm going to get slightly ahead of myself. It's been suggested, well, in fact, it's been widely reported for days now that the Labour government is weighing up more austerity for the Spring Statement on Wednesday. And before I came on air, I have been reviewing what economists have said about austerity and any lessons learned over the last 15 years. And I just wonder what your view on austerity and what it means for growth, which of course is the Labour government's number one mission. How do you balance those two, reconcile those two, to my mind, contrasting things?
Well, to be, you're absolutely right. To be honest, you don't, you can't. My gosh, we have enough austerity already. We're still in this horrific cost of living crisis. We still have countless millions of people still deciding between eating and heating. And there are rumors that in the autumn taxes will have to go back up even further. Our tax rates are the highest since the coronation of Her late Majesty, for goodness sake. So austerity is the last thing we need. And apart from the message that it sends, practically speaking, what it does to businesses and consumers' lives, you can't possibly expect to have growth. It's just a nonsense. I mean, I know they mean well and they think it will work, but they've never actually worked in a business that imposed austerity on its operations and tried to see it grow at the same time. You're 150% right, Matthew. It doesn't work. It can't happen.
Dr. Roger Key, I was just so grateful that it was you explaining that, not myself. So, thank you so much for giving up your time. Much appreciated.